So, the physical body. Over lunch one day, this group of 4 engineers were kind of arguing over who designed the body, the human body. And the mechanical engineer spoke up and said, look at all the bones and tendons and muscles and all of that organized so perfectly to move smoothly and efficiently. It had to be a mechanical engineer who designed the body. And then the electrical engineer says, wait. Look at the nervous system. Look at the peripheral nerves that go throughout the whole body. Maintaining that would take an electrical engineer. Then the hydraulic engineer says, no. Only a hydraulic engineer could be responsible for the vast circulatory system and the secretions of all the glands and all how that works. That had to be a hydraulic engineer. And so they all looked at the civil engineer and like waiting for them. He goes, hey, don't look at me. No civil engineer would ever put a toxic pipeline right through a recreational area. And so begins our lesson today about the body. You know, I think we can all agree that some kind of intelligence formed the human body and designed it. But not everybody believes that, actually. Some people believe that it is just random materialism, evolution. They don't believe that there's an intelligence. And the late Wayne Dyer, hopefully you know who that is, described the moment when his logical, agnostic mind accepted a belief in divine intelligence. So a friend of his said to him, Wayne, imagine millions of pieces of plastic, steel, metal, fabric, wire, carpet, foam, thread, everything strewn out in a junkyard. And a huge wind comes along and whips everything up in this whirlwind. And when the wind stopped, all the individual pieces have come together to form an airplane. What are the chances of that happening? What are the chances that the universe, the human body, the creative process, et cetera, were random acts? Pretty darn slim. Might I say completely nil. There absolutely must be an intelligence, in fact, a divine intelligence at work here. And at that moment, with that example, Wayne Dyer believed in divine intelligence. Divine intelligence in our bodies. So, since we're in the moment of summer camp, let's just all be kids for a minute, okay? So just for fun, I thought it would be great if we all went back to elementary school age or camp days just for a moment. Remember the song, Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes? Okay, so stay seated if you want. We're all old. But let's... Remy, do you know the song, Head and Shoulders, Knees and Toes? Okay, we're going to teach it to you. All right, here we go. Y'all know it. Come on. Head and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Can't get down there. Head and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head and shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. You want to go faster? No, I'm kidding. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to take these body parts one by one. And if you were in a Sacred Cup this morning, you know what this is going to be about. We're going to take these body parts one by one and see if there are lessons that they might want to teach us. So if we can look at the ways that our body parts symbolize messages for us, what can we learn? What can we learn? You know, the world uses sayings and phrases about the body as analogies to teach us things and to give us lessons. So when we hear them, perhaps we could take a lesson from them for ourselves. So let's talk about heads first, all right? So what spiritual lesson do we need to remember when we're paying attention to our head? Think about that for a second. So this morning I want our heads to symbolize our thoughts or our mental power. Louise Hay, she's a very famous religious science author and teacher. She passed away, I think, in 2017, I think it was. But at any rate, she was the founder of Hay House. And Hay House is a publishing company that publishes many of the books that we read around here. They they have a standard that it must, the works they publish must include spiritual truth in some level. So anyway, she wasn't always a famous author and writer and teacher. She was actually raised by an abusive father. She was raped by a neighbor at age 5. She dropped out of high school pregnant, and at 16 she gave her baby up for adoption. Later she was married for 14 years when her husband left her for another woman, and that was in 1968. And in that time in her life, she found a Center for Spiritual Living and began to study. She became a practitioner, just like Heather is going to become a practitioner. And she started teaching that your thoughts could be healed. And as a result, your life could be transformed. And she gained extreme popularity when she brought her wisdom to the world during the time of the AIDS crisis in the 1980s. And she wrote a book, You Can Heal Your Life. That's the title of it. It's on our reading list for June if you want to read it. That was published in 1984. So if you know anything about the AIDS epidemic, it was right around that time that it was at its peak. And she used to travel and bring musicians with her, including my former minister, Reverend David Alt, was a part of this program that they took around called the Hay Rides. And she took these truths to thousands of people. She was actually both on the Oprah show and the Phil Donahue show, speaking her messages. And when she died at age 90, she was one of the most well-known teachers of this philosophy that we teach here. And I bring up Louise Hay today because although she was helping people who were very physically ill in their bodies, she helped them by focusing on their heads, on their mental atmosphere. I put this quote in my newsletter article last week. It said, "Filling my mind with pleasant thoughts is the quickest road to health." And as she worked with these HIV positive people, and in her books that millions of us have read, she emphasizes the power of our mental state, of our head. And as you can imagine, the gay men in West Hollywood during that time were full of fear and anger about this virus that was killing their community. So Hayes' message of forgiveness and self-love was pretty radical. She knew the truth that our minds are a powerful tool for healing. And that was the truth then, and that's the truth now. That is the foundation of our philosophy. If we can change our thinking, we can change our lives. If we can change our thinking, our bodies will change along with the rest of us. So as we think about our heads this morning, let us be aware of the mental atmosphere that we live in every day. Where is your head? If your mind is full of judgment and criticism about the world around you, practice radical acceptance. If you carry thoughts about the ways that you've been wounded in the past, practice radical forgiveness. If you find yourself in negativity of any kind, practice radical gratitude. Flood your mind with these 3 things: acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude, and your head will thank you, and your body will respond. That's your head. Let's talk about your shoulders. What message do we get about our shoulders? You know, when I was researching the symbolism of shoulders, there were a few different directions I could go in, so I thought I would just share a few of them. The first thing I think of when I think of shoulders is the image of Atlas holding the world on his shoulders, assuming responsibility for everything. You know, so often when my shoulders are tight, I kind of wake up and realize that I'm carrying weight about things far beyond my own realm of influence. You know, perhaps I'm worrying about something on the news or things that are going on in my family or whatever. Perhaps details about the center, whatever. Things weigh heavy on my shoulders. Norman Vincent Peale, who was a great teacher of positivity, said, "Drop the idea that you are Atlas carrying the world on your shoulders. The world would go on even without you." Norman Vincent Peale was actually a radical teacher who emphasized positivity in every way. He'd have some things to say about your minds too. But for me, the lesson here about the shoulders is do what is mine to do And then surrender the rest to Spirit. I've got to stop shouldering the details and remember that my consciousness goes before me to prepare the path. Rest your shoulders, Laine, rest. And another message about shoulders is to check for chips. Has anyone ever said that you have a chip on your shoulder? So I had to, not dandruff, chips. So I had to look up the etymology of that statement. You know, the origin of the phrase chip on your shoulder refers to a practice seen in America during the 19th century in which boys spoiling for a fight would place an actual chip of wood on their shoulders before walking around belligerently daring someone to knock the chip off. Okay? But what do we say that, a chip on your shoulders? That we usually mean that you've got this angry or unpleasant attitude, often caused by a belief that one has been treated unfairly in the past. You have a chip on your shoulder, right? So I think there's a spiritual lesson in that, don't you think? Are your shoulders trying to tell you that you're carrying around a belief that you were wrongly treated or unfairly treated or cheated in your life? Maybe the belief isn't portrayed as anger or belligerence or unpleasantness like a chip on your shoulder would, but it could show up as insecurity or the fear of wanting to try something new or again. You know, do you have a chip on your shoulders? And one last symbol of shoulders is the saying about throw your shoulders back. Throw your shoulders back, right? That's about confidence and strength. Throw your shoulders back. We're encouraged to throw our shoulders back and move ahead, you know. Is it time to throw your shoulders back about something in some area of your life? So overall, this message that we could get as we listen to our shoulders is one about what we're carrying around, right? Whether it be grudges or undue responsibility, we're often carrying unnecessary burdens, and our shoulders can symbolize that. So if we can shrug those things off our shoulders and throw them back, we can kind of move forward in our power. So head and shoulders. Let's go to knees, all right? Knees. So when I was reading things about knees, I got two distinct messages. One was about flexibility, things like keep your knees bent, right, and be ready to move in any direction. I can remember being coached so often, keep your knees bent, Laine, and I was a tennis player, keep your knees bent. So if I could bend my knees, then I could move in any direction I needed to move a lot quicker than if I had to unlock my knees before I went left or right or forward or backwards, right? So are your knees trying to remind you to release rigidity that you might hold about your life? Are there topics that are asking you to be more flexible in your thinking? So that was one message about knees. But the second one was about being brought to our knees or dropping to our knees. Being brought to our knees really implies that something outside of ourselves has taken away our strength or our resolve. You know, unwanted circumstances or profound loss and great challenges can bring us to our knees in a position of vulnerability. If that is the message your knees are trying to bring to you, my invitation is for you to just stay on your knees and turn to God. Dropping to our knees is really about that, surrendering to God. Sometimes when I'm teaching about prayer, the question will come up about whether or not prayers have to happen on your knees in our religion, right? The French author Victor Hugo said it this way: there are thoughts which are prayers. There are moments when, whatever the posture of the body, the soul is on its knees. Our soul is on its knees anytime we realize that something bigger than ourselves is going on, that the universe of all life is unfolding exactly as it should, and I can trust in that power to unfold in ways that serve me. So when something brings me to my knees, I try to just stay there and remind myself that there's a power in the universe that is good, that is loving, and that is all-knowing, and I can use that power, and that power can use me. Head and shoulders, knees, and toes. Let's go to toes. All right, what about our toes? There are definitely some sayings about toes that have lessons in them. Have you ever said that someone or something is keeping you on your toes, right? That's a message to stay alert and remain highly engaged to make your best choice in the moment? Or how about don't step on anyone's toes, meaning try not to offend others with whatever you're about to say. Toes tend to be the symbol of the entirety of the thing. So from head to toe means the whole thing, even the smallest detail, the little toes, right? So when you look at someone from head to toe, it means you're taking in the entire person. So the question is, where are you leaving out the toes in the view of your life? Are there some details that need your attention? Another toe message is just about sticking your toes in, right? Just stick your toes in, meaning someone is not fully engaged in something. They're just trying it out, just getting a little bit involved. So maybe it's time to ask yourself where your toes have been for a while, and the rest of you is either longing to jump in or you need to get your toes out of there, right? So the messages of our head and shoulders, knees, and toes, so that takes care of the first line of our little song, but what comes next? Eyes and ears and mouth and nose, okay? So I'm not going to break those down individually. These are the body's sensory organs for sight, sound, taste, and smell, right? So we use our senses to experience the world on the human plane. So these are the ways that the eyes and ears and mouth and nose are the ways we find our joy, aren't they? They really are. The overall message of our senses is, are you experiencing what you want to experience? Are you looking at things that bring you joy? Are you listening to sounds that soothe you, that uplift you? Are you tasting the foods you like to taste and deeply desire? Are you flooding yourself with aromas and scents that bring you pleasure? I realize that sometimes it feels like we don't always have a choice about what we experience. But if you're feeling that way, I ask you to check again. If you have to spend a great deal of your day in an unstimulating environment, figure out a way to give your senses more fulfillment. Wear your sweetie's cologne or put a photo of your favorite place above your computer screen. Fill your ears on your headphones with music that energizes you, or pack your favorite lunch, or take a walk and see what is out there to smell and taste and hear and look at, right? The bottom line is for you to have several things to be grateful for throughout your day that feeds your senses with goodness. There's a poem I want to share by Holly Holden, and maybe it'll support you through your practice of paying attention to your physical body. It's called "Today I Asked My Body What She Needed." And it goes like this: today I asked my body what she needed, which is a big deal considering my journey of not really asking that much. I thought she might need more water, or protein, or greens, or yoga, or supplements, or movement. But as I stood in the shower reflecting on her stretch marks, her roundness where I would like flatness, her softness where I would like firmness, all those conditioned wishes that form a bundle of never quite rightness, she whispered very gently, "Could you just love me like this?" My summary today is this: the magic suit is not separate from your spiritual life. It's an amazing and awe-inspiring manifestation of an intelligent God, whatever kind of engineer it was. Your body houses your consciousness in a fully integrated way so that messages are being transmitted back and forth from your body to your mind, to your soul, to your heart. Your body listens to your emotions and your thoughts, and your body also communicates back what it needs to thrive and how it is not being fully taken care of. Ernest Holmes describes the body this way. He says, the body is the house in which, for the present, you are living, and you need to keep it in good repair by a right mental attitude toward it, experiences, and people. Your body is entitled to your respect. Do you respect your body? Do you listen to it? Do you give it everything it needs? Do you keep it in balance? We come close to and love spirit by coming closer to and loving ourselves including our body. Your body is a temple of the divine right now. Listen to its wisdom in all the parts. And as you go about your lives hearing some of these sayings and statements that use the body, that reference the body, pay attention, because maybe there's a message in you hearing that right that moment. Listen to your head. Listen to your shoulders, your knees, your toes, and everything in between. Will you pray with me? Here's what I know. What I know is that this beautiful magic suit that houses each one of us is a divine creation that was designed in an intelligent, integrated way. I know that my magic suit, my body, is connected to my mind, is connected to my heart and my soul in a way that it informs me. And so what I know for each one of us today is that we have a greater awareness of our physical body and the spiritual wisdom of it. I know that we receive the messages we need to receive from our body and from the world around us as it teaches us about the magnificence of this physical encasing that we live in. And so I'm thankful for our bodies. I'm thankful for every piece of them that carry us through our days and express an experience on this human plane. And with that overwhelming gratitude, I just let go and say, and so it is. And so it is.